Hello everyone and welcome back to UE5 BP Guru. Today we're going to be back in our creature capture project and we are going to be looking at finishing up this series today. So this is the last episode for now. We're going to click play and I'm going to show you how to do the shop today. Now things are running a little bit slower than normal because I'm running this through a Perforce project, and I think that's my computer's not quite liking that. I don't know why, but I have noticed that testing the game on this is a little bit slower than normal, so you have to bear with me. But yeah, we're going to show you how to use the shop. Now I'm going to grab a bunch of items here. Let's grab every one of them, shall we? Now you're going to notice a few things with this. Let's grab all of those. Now if I go into my bag, you'll notice that I have a couple of capture slots here. So I've got an ocean cart and a beast cart. And I've got a burn heal and a grace heal in here, but I have got also a nature essence, and I also have a learnable move. So I have two learnable moves. I just clicked open the shop. That was silly. Right. So because I don't have a character in place in the world yet for me to go and buy stuff from, currently I'm just going to press M for now. And this is what the shop looks like. Very simple stuff. But you'll notice down here, it knows whether I'm buying or whether I'm selling. So if I click on something to sell, it changes it to selling and gives me the sell price. If I'm buying, it will change it to buying, and it will change it to the buy price. So let's sell a few things. Now, I don't really need 2 LM moves, so let's sell that. And I'm not exactly planning on evolving anything anytime soon, so let's sell one of those as well for now, so that I've got 1,500 in my bank, which is updated on the right here, which is always here. This is always persistent. You'll always be able to see how much money you have. So now I'm like, okay, I want to go to venture, so I'm going to need some supplies. So let's say, okay, I'm going to need 5 gray sprays for while I'm traveling around. Now, I didn't update in my inventory, and there is a reason for that, and we'll have a look at that in a moment. And I'm also going to buy 5 weak carts, and I've bought those. Okay, we press M, we go into our bag. So interestingly, the weak cartridges didn't update, so that's interesting. But the gray spray did, so we can move those out now. I'm not sure what happened to my £1,000. I've been swindled. If we go into all the other ones, they're empty now. We got the LM1. So if you go into here, you can now see that I have 6 gray sprays, which I can sell for 50. I said I've bought too many, Mr. Shopkeeper. I know you kept my £1,000, but here's an extra 3 gray sprays back for cheaper than I bought them for, and I don't need 2 burn heals. So it is working. You can see my money updating there. There was a bug there where my weak carts didn't go into my inventory, which is interesting. So I will look at that while we look at the code. But let's get rid of the bag anyway. So it is a working. It's a semi-working inventory system. I will show you basically the raw setup and how I kind of got to this point. And I'm going to have a look at see why that weak cartridge didn't go into my inventory. I assume it's probably because it constantly came back saying not added in the shop for whatever reason. So let's go to the designer first. So it's very simple. It's just an image background with 2 scroll boxes in here, so that we can kind of scroll through our items when we have a lot of them. It's obviously got the player name, which will update to whatever we name our trainer. I haven't set that up because I haven't actually got trainer names in this yet. And then it's just a bunch of text information that is updated when we click on one of those inventories. If we come over to here, we should have a shop inventory slot, which I think is the same for both. So you don't need 2 in this instance. I managed to make it with the same one. And you'll see that I'm using the same code here, but twice. And annoyingly, that's because it's different for whether you're buying or you're selling. Different prices, different information, for example. So the main shop inventory setup, let's have a look at it. So let's go to the event graph. And this is on click. So when you click on the buy button, so that's kind of like the last thing we want to do, to be honest. should be an on construct. There we go. Oh yeah, yeah. So that's increase quantity, calculate cost, and okay. So up here, event construct. Here we go. So when the inventory opens, and when the inventory opens and we want to look at what items we've got, we need to build the player inventory and build the merchant inventory. So very simple stuff. I've covered this in other tutorials, to be honest, but this is the main gist of it. So for the player inventory, we're just getting that main inventory. That's why we don't see the updates to the capture or the battle items. And we are literally just going through, we're getting the quantities. So the first thing first, I think we have to check is it a key item? We do this for only the player because the shop doesn't actually have any key items. So we check to see if it's a key item. If it's true, we don't want to load it. But if it's false, we build that shop inventory slot, which is this one here. And looking at the designer, it's just one panel with the name and the item amount. So we create that shop widget. We also give it the ID. So we create a slot ID in here. So if we go to the graph, you'll see there's a slot ID. We create that variable, and then we're setting that slot ID as whatever this inventory array index is. So it has its own unique ID slot. We then add this child. So we add this as a child to that to this one. This, what have I called it? Player scroll box. It gets added as a child. And then we are basically just setting those 2 bits of information here. So you're just getting the item name and the item quantity, both of which will have to be variables so that you can call them. You can see up here, I've made them variables for both of these, quantity and item name. So you're going to get both of those. Where am I going? Over here. So you're going to get both of these. So from this create shop inventory widget, get the item name and quantity and set them text for both of those. And the information is coming from this item here. We're getting the item name, and we're also getting the quantity. I have appended it so it has the little X in front of it as well. So it'll be like X, then 19, for example. And then we need to do the same thing with the merchants. Now, this one's a little bit different because we don't have to do as much because we can just buy an infinite quantity of stuff and things like that. So for this one, we just need to so on this shop widget, I have created a shop item name. Now, when you have a merchant, a physical merchant, you can give him a list of an array of names. I've done it in here. This doesn't need to be in here. I've done it in here purely because I don't have a merchant to put it on. But the idea is that you, on every one of your merchants, you can give them an array of shop item names. You can literally put the names down here. Like, so for example, if I wanted to add another item, I could put in, I'm trying to think of an item name I've got. I think I've got Ocean Cart. And we'll see that updated on the shop list. Anyway, basically, you can put any array of shop names on all of your merchants, so they're all different, and change things in and out. So for example, if you didn't want, let's look at Pokemon for example, you don't get Great Balls or Ultra Balls till later on in the game. So you can have it that, okay, your first 4 shops you visit, so let's say Viridian, Pewter, Cerulean, and I can't think of what the 4th town is. They'll only have Pokeballs. But when you get to, let's say, Lavender Town, which is like the other side of the mountain when you kind of enter that second half of the game, that's where you'll find Great Balls. So you could give the merchant Great Balls and it'll start basically appearing. So that's kind of how that works. And then you'll basically, this will be still a variable on here, I'd imagine, and you would just make it a public variable, an instance editable. And that way, when you plug in that array into the create widget box, it will basically just update on the fly. So that's how that's going to kind of work in my game. But for now, I've just, because I don't have a merchant, I've just put it in here and I've set some values for testing. So yeah, anyway, we'll clear the merchant first time when we build it. I think we do the same thing up here actually. Maybe we don't. Okay, fine. And then we get the shop item name. We run it for a for each loop. We get the item data table, find that row, and we add that to our merchant inventory. When we have done that, we run another for each loop for the merchant inventory. So whatever items were actually added, we then do the same thing, create shop item inventory, give it the item slot of this. We get the name. We set to buying true. I can't remember if we did that on here. We didn't, but we set buying to true on this. Merchant SB, add the child of this. Oh, this is, oh, in here we set the buying to true. So buying will always be false. That is another variable in here. I understand now what I did. Buying is a boolean in the shop inventory slot. That's how the system knows whether you're buying or selling. So it only sets the merchant's items to buying, otherwise it will always be false. Okay, and then we add that child same as, and then we set those text information. Now I set the quantity to blank so that it's just invisible for the merchant. So now technically you should have both of your inventories built. You just need to do stuff with it. So if we go back to the designer and have a look at this, we obviously need to update the name. That we need to update the quantity. We need to update the price, and the total needs to be updated as well. And we have 2 increase and decrease buttons for the quantity, the amount we want to buy or sell. And then we need to update that button. That's the next few things we need to do. So the first thing I think we should do is look at this item slot code. Now what this is doing is when we click on it, it's going to update the information. That's what this is doing. So you'll see it here, for example, we're setting all these different things to some form of information. So if we're buying, so again, that's why we set this buying to true or false. If we are buying, we're obviously the merchant, which will cast to the shop widget to get this merchant inventory. There is an easier way to do this. Actually, I've realized I learned to do this recently, but basically you can create this variable in here and set it to instance editable and expose on spawn. And then when you're doing wherever we were, it will show up on the bottom of here, and then you can just plug in that merchant's inventory into here. So that's one way of doing that, by the way. You can also do it for the players one as well. Anyway, that's something I might update down the line, so that you can also get rid of this cast as well. So moving on, we're getting the inventory, merchant inventory. We're then going to get the slot ID, which was assigned to this when it was created, and we're going to find it basically within that merchant's inventory by doing an equals equals. Once we found it, it's just a case of updating all that information. So we break this. We're also getting a ton of variables from our shop widget, so probably actually is good to do a cast to that, to be honest. But you know, that's fine. We basically need to get all of these variables from the inventory, which is item name, item price, action, button action. Button action is where is the designer? That is this here. That's the text variable of the name of the button. So whether you're buying, that will also switch to sell. That's what that does. That's what that is doing. So that sets it to buy, and then you can see it down here. Button action sets it to sell, and it's just the same thing along. So buying and selling. That's the text box that says whether you're buying or you're selling. That gets changed. We check the current. We update the current quantity to 0, so it always starts at 0. We then have the slot item slot, so we know where we're taking that information from. That gets updated using the slot ID, and then we have a merchant. We set the merchant to active, and then we also get our total spending, and we set that back to 0 too. So it's all back at the correct values. And the same thing happens down here. The only difference is we set the merchant active to false, and we also change everything from buy to sell, basically. But it's exactly the same sort of thing. The only difference as well here is we're getting the our inventory as opposed to the merchant's inventory. So those are the differences on there. But that basically it doesn't technically do anything other than set information within this UI. So it updates this, the name, quantities back to 0. It changes the price to whatever the price of the product is, and it changes your total back to 0 and changes that to sell. That's literally all this is doing. So that's a lot of code, but it does literally just not a lot, to be honest. So now that we've done that, we can come back into our main shop widget, and we need to do a couple of things. Now this is, I'm going to go through it one at a time, but basically you can do this in any order. It's just these are all the different bits that will bring it all together. So we obviously have our two buttons down here, our increase and decrease. So for the decrease, we are just checking to see if the current quantity is 0. If that is true, we don't want to do anything. But if that's false, we can decrement that current quantity, and then we calculate the cost. That's going to be a custom function. So if you want to create that while you're ahead, just go ahead and create a custom function called calculate cost. So the reason we check to see if it's 0 is because we don't want to go to -1, -2, -3. That could create some bugs where people create infinite money or would lose money. I don't know. I don't quite know what the outcome would be, but I don't really want to find out. But we don't want to go into minuses, basically. So that's fine. We don't want to start owning, we don't want to start giving up potions but owing the shop money. That would not make sense, which is something that potentially could happen. So that's why that check is in there. Very simple, but that's just decreasing that current quantity while we try and work out what we're going to sell. Then we want to increase quantity button. So we're going to check to see, this is why it's important to know if the merchant's active or not. Because if the merchant's active, we're just going to increase. Because it really doesn't matter how many the merchant has. The merchant technically has an infinite amount of whatever item we're buying. We just need to keep increasing that quantity. But if it's not the merchant, we need to know how many items we have. So we get our trainer information, we get the inventory, we run it through a for each loop, and we use the item slot to find out what item we're looking at. And once we found it, we break it to get the quantity, and we're checking to see if the current quantity equals the quantity we have in our inventory. If that is true, we don't want to add any more. We don't want to increment anything. But if it's not, we can increment, basically. That's kind of how this is going to work. And then again, at the end, we calculate the cost. And now we're going to calculate the cost. Oh, God, this video must be so boring. I'm sorry. So again, we're going to check to see if the merchant is active. If it is, we get the merchant inventory. We run it for a for each loop. We find the slot, same as always. Once it comes back true, we need to find the buy price, which is in our item strut. We times that by our current quantity, and then we set that as our total buy price. And then we set our total spending as the text with this integer here. The reason we do both is because we can't use a text to work out the mathematics behind what we should take away from the inventory or add to the inventory. So we need to know it as an integer, but we also need to update that text with that same value. That's why we do both. And that total spending is obviously the text section of that. And again, it's exactly the same for the player info. If it's not the merchant, we're getting the player's inventory, running through it for each loop, finding it through the item slot. We go off the true. We set the total price of the sell price instead of the buy price, times the current quantity to set that total price. And then we obviously set the text as well. Same thing going for both. Now, at this point, we should have a working quantity, and we should have the total price updating as well. And once you've got that, it's just a case of now working out whether we can actually pay for it, and then it's working out where to put our items. So we're going to do that same magical thing of where we wonder if it's the merchant active or not. Now this is coming up to the point where I need to look at that weak cartridge, why it didn't go in there, see if we can figure that one out, or whether it was just a bug. I don't know, but we'll work it out. So let's go down the route of whether we're buying something. So the merchant's active, we're buying something, which is the problem where I had that thing before. It will be the same for the other trainer, for the merchant as well, by the way. It's just, again, flip-flopping the information to know what's going where. So we get our trainer information, and we get the player money. We get our total price, and first thing we're doing is we're checking to see if it is equal to, our player money is equal to or less than the total price. No, sorry. Total price is equal to or less than the player money. If that's true, we're going to be able to do something. If it's not, we're going to say we can't afford. If we can afford it, we minus our total price from our player money. So the player money goes on the top, total price on the bottom. And then we're setting that member. So we're getting our trainer information, setting the member of player money, and then we set our trainer information. Once we've done that, we just need to find that item and add it to our inventory. So we get the merchant inventory, run it for a for each loop, find that item. and then we're going to break that information here. Once we've found that true, we are doing a check. Now, this is where I think I had some issues. We are looking to see if that weak cartridge. So I'm going to do this from the mindset of my weak cartridge for a second, just so I can work it out in my brain. So we are running our item through a name check to see if that name is equal to any name on our capture slot. If that's true, we set the item to added and we get our quantity and we add it to our current quantity and we add that as the quantity of that item. And then we set it as an array. Now, if that comes back completely false, this, I know where I've gone wrong. I actually know where I've gone wrong. This item added needs to be set to false when this happens. That's where I went wrong. Because I had already done one item before I bought my weak cartridge. So when that happened, this was set to true. So no matter what happens, it sets to true. So nothing ever happened. So once you bought another item, nothing ever happened. So that's what happened there. Okay, cool. Anyway, let's run through it. So don't forget to set your item added to false. Once you've found that item, if you do find the item, we set that information, set the array element of that item, etc., using that inventory. So hence why when you bought a gray spray, I already had a gray spray. So what happened was it got added to this inventory. It got added to this one actually, but you know, same idea. So if we don't find that item in our battle item slot, it'll go down to the next one. Boop, 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 boop. Checks again, see if the item's been added. If obviously it should be false at this point. And then it's going to check our battle slots. It's going to do exactly the same thing. Okay, so it's going to do a for each loop on our battle slots. Going to check the name against this item name up here. That if that comes back true, we add the item, add the current quantity to that quantity, set that quantity for that item, and then we set the array element. Now, if that comes back false, we don't have another item, so we come here, and that's false. We then do the loop through the inventory. Does that item already exist in our inventory? If it comes back true, we say item has been added. We add that quantity to the quantity of our current quantity, and then we set that quantity within our inventory and set the array element. If that comes back false, we get this is now going to just go straight into our inventory. So we get the item added. If it comes back false, we set the array element within our inventory. Yeah, this is all coming from our main inventory. So we break the main inventory to get the quantity. We get the current quantity. We say plus. We get the struct, and then we just add it. That's all we're doing. We're adding that item to that inventory. Very, very simple stuff, because at this point it doesn't exist. So we are just setting its quantity and we're adding to it. That's all we're doing. And you should get the correct inventory amount. Now I've made that change, let's just double check to see if I've got it working. But that's genuinely all there is to the shop. So actually, it's a lot of code, but it's very simple. You're just kind of following along the process for each step until it obviously eventually works. Yeah, 20 frames down to lows of 9 frames at the minute. That's just appalling. But that is just purely because I haven't built the lighting. I haven't done any of the optimization side of things, and I haven't obviously. I am running my streaming information. I'm running this on Perforce now, so there's lots of variables as to why this is running slow. But such is life. We'll get around it, right? So we have all the information in our bag now. So we have Burn Heal, Grace Heals. We have Ocean Carts, Beast Carts, etc. We should also see the change now in our shop. See, they now sell Ocean Carts since I added that in. So that's as simple as that for that one. Now let's try buying. Oh, I need to sell some stuff first. My apologies. Sell that. Might as well sell both and get myself a nice juicy 2K, 2.5K. So let's buy 5 Grace Heals. Now these will go instantly into my battle slots because I already have some in there. So you can see we've made the sale. Let's also buy some wheat carts. Now these should end up in this inventory, I believe now. There it is. There you go. Because they don't exist in the slots. They go straight into your inventory. But I do have some ocean carts. Now, these are a little bit more pricey, but that's fine. I'll buy 2 of them. If I try and buy 1.5, it'll tell me I can't afford it. So I'll buy just 2 instead. And those will go directly into my inventory. So now, if I open up my bag, I should have 6 gray sprays. I've got 3 ocean carts now, and I can move that over and I've got weak carts as well now. And I've sold everything else. So it's working. There you go. And we even fixed the code on the video. Isn't that brilliant? So hopefully you found this useful. This is, as I said, with a heavy heart, this is my last episode for a long while on this series while I work on my own game. And yeah, hopefully you found this useful. I was contemplating rebooting this series and adding the multiplayer aspect into it, because that is something I'm working on now. And it will drive me to continue pushing with my own game and finding new solutions to things. But if you want me to do that, if you're like, oh yeah, do it. Make a multiplayer Pokemon tutorial. If you want me to really do that, leave a like on this video. If this gets to like, I don't know, something crazy, it's gonna have to be a crazy amount of likes. If it ever gets to like, I don't know, 50 likes. If this video gets to 50 likes, I'll consider rebooting this at some point or another. But as it's like the 40th episode, I highly doubt this is going to get to 50 likes. So who knows, right? But if it gets to 50 likes, then that's the point where I'll be like, okay, it's time to reboot this series. But thank you so much for watching, guys. I really do appreciate all the support that everyone's given me, and I will see you in the next episode. Much love. Take care. Bye.